Tall and Small Collection, Season 2, Chapter 9, Welcoming Committee. Soren almost couldn't believe his eyes. Other borrowers. They had barely begun their exploration of the apartment building, and they found 2 others. This was amazing. The trio looked at the faces of the 2 new borrowers now that they were closer, and their hip lamps were lowered. They certainly looked related. The oldest, a boy, had dark, sandy blonde hair, while the younger teen, a girl, had very light brown hair, where it almost looked completely blonde. Both of them, however, had pale green eyes. They glanced at one another with a slight nervousness before looking back to Soren, Dorian, and Ray. "Did you all just arrive?" asked the teenage boy. Ray, elated to see another borrower and meet someone new, couldn't help but step forward a few steps. "Yeah, we did. Are you all residents here? How long have you been here? It's really nice to meet you. I'm Ray. This is my brother Dorian and our oldest brother Soren," said Ray with a big grin on his face. In the back of his head, Soren was a little uneasy about sharing everything all at once. He moved forward supportively, but also to politely interrupt Ray. Soren stepped forward and clasped Ray's shoulder with his hand. Ray glanced over at Soren and, seemingly picking up on his thoughts, fell quiet. Soren smiled at his youngest brother before directing his attention back to the 2 new borrower teens, who seemed to be relaxing in their presence. "It's nice to meet you," said Soren. "I'm Soren. We didn't catch your names." "I'm Atlas," said the eldest borrower teen. "And this is my younger sister, Callie. We've lived here all our lives. Are you all migrating from nearby?" Ray opened his mouth to respond when Soren squeezed his shoulder and, thinking fast, spoke up first. "Something like that," said Soren, giving a reassuring smile. They all exchanged a quick glance before lowering their lamps. "Well," said Atlas, "welcome to the building." "Glad to be here," said Soren, breathing a micro sigh of relief. "You haven't set up anywhere yet, have you?" asked Callie as she reattached her lamp to her hip. "Set up? No, we left our things on this floor and decided to explore," replied Soren. "All the way up here?" asked Atlas. "Yes, is that all right?" asked Soren. He started to get the feeling something was up. Had he said something wrong? Soren's intuition seemed to confirm his uneasiness as the 2 teens exchanged another curious glance. It made Soren feel a little anxious. What was that look for? "Well, we know a few places you can live that are safe, but first and foremost, you should come back with us to meet the others," said Atlas. "Others? There are others?" interjected Ray. "Yeah," grinned Callie. "I'm surprised you made it all the way up here without meeting anyone. They would have directed you to us anyway." "Oh?" asked Soren, feeling the hair on the back of his neck stand up slightly. He took a breath to calm himself. "Directed us to you? Why?" Not to brag or anything, but our family is one of the founding families of this place. Could we walk and talk? We need to be getting back home," replied Callie. "Founding family?" asked Dorian as he readjusted the pack on his back. "Yeah, we'll explain on the way," Callie chirped. The 2 older teens began to lead the way back through the rafters. Just before they followed, Soren touched Ray and Dorian on their shoulders. "Hey," Soren hissed just under his breath. "Don't mention how we arrived, okay? And especially don't mention anything about Ashlyn." "What?" Ray breathed back disbelievingly. "Just let me do the talking," whispered Soren. "I'm getting a weird feeling, and we don't want to cause trouble just yet." "You've got it," muttered Dorian. Ray wrinkled his nose, like he smelled something bad, but nodded in compliance. With that, they followed after the siblings through the rafters and along the beams of the ceiling. The whole way, Callie talked about the history of the building and how their family actually came to live there. It turns out their great-grandfather was the one who came here when he was very young. He was immensely strong and cleared out a lot of debris in the wall. As she talked, Soren, Dorian, and Ray were astounded at the structures they were seeing. Between the rafters and some of the boards were borrower-sized bridges and stairs along the wall nails made of popsicle sticks, permanent climbing cords, and even a pulley system to bring borrowings from one floor to the next easily. Eventually, others immigrated and moved into the building. That is essentially how we got our community started, finished Callie, as she led the brothers into a massive tunnel that went straight up and down. The ends vanished into darkness above and below, and was far too wide for any borrower to traverse. Thankfully, there were places to walk around the beams. There was even a handrail to keep someone from falling off. All of these permanent structures boggled Soren's mind. He didn't think anything like this was possible for a borrower community. Building structures to last was something humans did. "Whoa!" said Ray as he leaned just barely over the handrail. "What on earth is this?" "This is the elevator shaft," replied Atlas. "This is how humans get from one level to the next without moving their legs. We have one too, but you have to be careful. Sometimes humans come in here when it's broken, and we have to pull everything we can away from the edges here." "That's amazing," said Ray. Do you have a team of inventors and builders?" "Yes, actually," said Callie as she stepped up to Ray's side. "It's a volunteer basis thing, but we all put in projects when we have our monthly meeting." "Monthly meeting?" asked Dorian. "There are that many borrowers here?" "Well, sure," said Callie with a smile. "We have dozens of families living on the different floors here. We're always getting new people, and after a while, they become permanent residents too." "We're a bit of an information hub, part of the family business," Atlas chimed in as he led the way along the handrail to a set of stairs. It was only now that the borrower brothers began to notice slight shifts of movement along the main path. By the time they made it to another set of popsicle stick stairs, they had seen over a dozen new faces of borrowers smiling and greeting them, the newcomers. This was amazing. Still, Soren could not help but feel uneasy. It almost seemed too perfect. What was the catch here? "Soren, are you seeing this?" asked Dorian, eyes wide with awe. "Yeah," said Soren. "This is definitely something." "There's a whole community just in this building," said Ray, taking a couple of the steps two at a time on the way down. "We went years without seeing another borrower family, and now there are dozens." "That's the great thing about this place," chimed in Callie as they reached a few levels down and walked down one of the other passages. "We're always seeing new faces who eventually become family." They passed by a few open beams where it looked like there were stands of supplies available. "What is that?" asked Dorian. Atlas glanced over and, seeing what Dorian was pointing at, smiled. "Supply tables. There are a few of us who either aren't able to borrow or need specific supplies that aren't available on our floors. So, some groups here who know the ins and outs of nearly every apartment volunteer to borrow for others. They can help you get the thing you need, or that you're looking for," explained Atlas. "So they volunteer to borrow because they like it?" asked Ray. "Yeah," confirmed Atlas. "They were just trying to come up with a group name, but I don't think they found anything that stuck just yet. The big thing with that group is that it's voluntary. You're not supposed to hold back supplies for trading or favors. If you're part of the group, bring something to the table and volunteer to let others have it. You can't expect any repayment." "So you don't have to go in the human world and borrow at all?" asked Dorian. Soren noted the hint of enthusiasm in his tone. "Well, I suppose not," replied Atlas. "However, sometimes supplies are scarce and the borrowers who need to be taken care of take priority. There's a list you can get on for that, though." Soren almost couldn't believe what he was hearing. This entire borrower community had rules and regulations outside of the normal borrower code. Borrowing for fun to give the supplies to another? Were things really that good here? And for so many? "We're home!" called Callie as she suddenly made a turn to the left and opened a door that looked like it used to be a mobile phone case. "And we have guests!" Soren, Dorian, and Ray entered what actually looked like a human's living area. The place was illuminated well with more tree lights. There was a stuffed sock and cardboard couch with a crochet blanket on the back. There was a narrow matchbox in the middle of the room with what looked like a homemade checkers set on top of it. Black was winning severely. Off to the right, where they could clearly see the kitchen, there was a cardboard table with a bit of cloth over at the top. There were also collections of foil, thimbles, and plastic cooking utensils from a dollhouse along the shelves on the far wall. There was even a tin can oven lit by a tea candle. There were what looked like separate bedrooms behind doors made of playing cards. Not only that, the place smelled wonderful. "Guests?" asked a woman who came out of a curtained area. Based on her hair and facial features, Soren guessed this was Atlas and Callie's mother. She had bright green eyes and brown blonde hair that curled slightly at the ends. She was jovial and wore her middle-aged frame well. "Well, isn't this a nice surprise? Nice to meet you. I'm Primrose Rafters, but you can call me Prim or Mrs. Rafters, whatever suits you," said Prim as she walked over with confidence, wiping her hands on her yarn-made apron, and shook all of the brothers' hands. "Nice to meet you," said Soren. "Rafters?" asked Ray, mostly to himself. "Oh, it's a last name," said Primrose. "I know it's more of a human thing, but it's a bit of a family tradition now. Will you be staying for lunch?" Soren hesitated for a moment. He remembered Maisie was still asleep, but how long would that last? Then again, it might look suspicious if they refused. Soren almost chuckled as he tried to remember proper etiquette. It had been so long since he was invited to dinner by a fellow borrower. Well, we just moved in and have some things to unpack. Plus, we wouldn't want to put you to any trouble," said Soren. "Oh, well, it's no trouble. I'm beating an army as it is. Why not a little something for the trek back? Have you found a nice place to stay? Do you prefer any of the spots, or still looking?" asked Prim as she bustled about the kitchen. "They haven't seen any places yet, Mom," said Atlas. "We literally met them on the way back from observation from that new mother-daughter pair." "I see. Well, there are plenty of places to make yourself a home," said Prim. At this point, another borrower entered. He was middle-aged as well, with dark brown hair and soft blue eyes. Soren could see the resemblance between Atlas and the newcomer instantly. The borrower's eyes widened as he stepped off to the side and let a smaller version of Atlas, who looked to be about Dorian's age, come into the room. "Newcomers?" he asked, his voice coming in a gruff grunt. "Yes, this is— oh dear, I went on and didn't ask for your names," said Prim, cheeks pink with embarrassment. "It's all right. I'm Soren. These are my two younger brothers, Dorian and Ray. We just moved in when we met Atlas and Callie," said Soren pleasantly. The man came over, almost a quarter of an inch taller than Soren, and shook his hand. "Name's Casper," he said before going on and unpacking his bag. He pointed to each child as he spoke. "You've met Atlas and Callie. This is Tyron. Prim, where's Winnie?" "Laying down for a nap," answered Prim as she folded bread and cheese into tin foil and placed it on top of the tin can stove. "Right. What about our little troublemaker?" asked Casper as he removed the last of his gear. At this, the front door flung open and yet another borrower entered. He looked just barely younger than Ray and had bright green eyes like his mother. "There you are. Come here. This is my youngest son, Hero." Hero looked slightly disheveled and out of breath, but he mustered a smile and straightened up. "Nice to meet you," he said, looking up at his father. "Sorry I'm late." "You should be more mindful of the time. We waited for you by the beams. Where'd you get off to?" asked Casper as he walked over to the table and sat down, frame finally relaxing. "I was looking at some of the Shelves. In one of the rooms, said Hero. Shelves? You weren't out, were you? Prompted Casper. What? Me? No, I was on top, said Hero quickly. Good, said Casper. You should always be careful going out. Did you make sure no humans were nearby? You know the rules. Do not be seen by the humans. It's dangerous and would put everyone here in danger. Now, Casper, don't scare him. He knows the borrower rules, said Prim soothingly. And we have guests. You're right, muttered Casper. What were you doing, looking at the shelves anyway? I was, trying to figure out if there was a safer way to get down. Since there are a lot of, building supplies. It would be hard to borrow anything there since the baseboard isn't loose, replied Hero. Soren thought the child's pauses were a little odd, but it could have been because the young teen was still trying to catch his breath. Besides, something else caught his attention, the rule of do not be seen by a human, and the emphasis behind it. Soren was snapped out of his trance by Ray chiming into the conversation. Shelves? Quick descent? Then you and I need to talk, said Ray. Nice to meet you, Hero. I'm Ray. I'm also something of an inventor, a modern-day MacGyver. Really? Asked Hero. There was a glint in his eyes that equaled Ray's enthusiasm. Soren knew immediately this pairing was going to be dangerous. You two can talk later. Come on, and get it while it's hot, said Prim, as she set the pieces of tinfoil onto the table. It's hot, so be careful. There was a swarm to the table, and, soon, the room was quiet except for the sounds of rustling foil. Soren had seen this before. Grilled cheese. It was the borrower's version of it, sure. But he knew it because Ashlyn had made it for them 100 times before. A few minutes of silence was all it took before Casper leaned forward, eyeing Soren specifically. So, you say you just moved in. Where from? Asked Casper. Soren folded the foil back over his meal, feeling almost queasy now. He had to be careful. Down the way. The humans moved out, and no one was moving back in, replied Soren. You went out on the streets? You're a lot braver than I am, said Atlas, as he started clearing up the foil and setting it on the counter to clean. Well, you do what you have to, said Soren, trying to put on a brave smile. All too true, replied Casper. And how did the first floor miss you? That's sneaky. Must have just missed them, said Soren. Casper eyed Soren with partial suspicion, but seemed to accept his answer. It is the afternoon on a weekend. Great time to go borrowing, since most of the humans leave, said Casper. Well, if you need anything, you come and you let us know. Anyone who moves in here is family. Just follow the borrower rules to the letter, and we'll get along. To the letter? What do you mean? Soren felt his insides drop as Ray spoke up, addressing Casper. Well, young man, it's as simple as this. Just follow the borrower code. It should go without saying, but we've had a few close encounters in the past where someone thought they were seen with some of the other families here, said Casper. Terrifying times, agreed Prim. Thank goodness no rafters have ever been seen by a human before. The family nodded in agreement. Really? Asked Ray. Soren, who was sitting next to Ray, had no way of inconspicuously getting his attention to get him to be quiet. Of course, chimed in Atlas. Besides, there would be tremendous panic if someone were seen. Could you imagine everyone in the building trying to leave all at once to escape before the floorboards went up? That's right. I can't recall any time when this many of us lived together and were undetected, agreed Casper. Needless to say, if you think you are seen or that something is off about one of the humans' behavior, just let us know. Since we were the first family here, we take personal responsibility for everyone's safety. Soren felt like he had been punched in the gut by an unforgiving shelf ledge just before plummeting into a free fall. He managed to keep his face straight and managed to nod in agreement, but inside was filled with dread. Soren considered himself an excellent borrower. He was good at what he did, and, thankfully, Dorian and Ray adopted his skill set. Still, they were friends with Ashlyn. Ashlyn was the reason they were even alive right now. How could they just vanish into the walls, never to see Ashlyn again after everything that happened between them? How are they going to do this?